a gleam, man. There's a gleam. Let's get the gleam, all right? Let's go.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to Raw Dogs Radio. I normally pop my head up out of the tunnels when I feel like it, but oh my God, because I know we're about to go through another horrendous season of Cleveland Browns football. And I'm sorry if I sound a little tinny. I don't have my mic. They're working on my basement, so I don't have my office. So I'm upstairs in the room. I don't want to wake up the family. At any rate, so I'm going to say this about the Browns, and I'm just going to be dead honest with you. This team lacks depth, so I'm expecting a horrible, maybe a 5-13 season, 5-12 season, 5-12 season. Yeah, you got to remember they had an extra game. I'm expecting that. At best, maybe 6-11. But I do expect the Browns to. Okay, I'll put it to you like this. If you start Shedeur Sanders, you will guarantee yourself the number one pick. If you start Deshaun Watson, you will be picking in the top 5. I mean, for the very simple fact that you lack depth and your quarterback play is absolutely abysmal, because neither one of these guys, be it Watson or Sanders or Gabriel or Green, nobody would start them on their team. Not the Jets, not the Dolphins, not the Falcons, okay, not the Cardinals. They will not start these guys on their team. You can forget it. They're not bona fide NFL starters. Deshaun Watson is trying to get back to his 2018 form, because that was the last time he played a good, meaningful season in the NFL. Yeah, 2018. Think about it. It's been almost 10 years since he last played a meaningful season in the NFL. Shoulder surgery, 2 Achilles. But you have to give him his credit. He did look like a veteran quarterback out there. He made some throws that we know that we know Shedeur wouldn't make because he's too slow on the draw. I think there was a pass out there to Concepcion. It was a quick pass out in the right flat. It was a 1-2-3 throw. And he called him fading out in the right flat. Boom, first down. The defender was just a hair too late. Sanders doesn't make those throws. He doesn't make those throws. The deep balls that you guys saw, those things came on the blitz. And luckily, that shaky offensive line that we have held up long enough for him to get the ball off. I'm not saying that he's terrible, but if you can't beat out Deshaun Watson, a washed Deshaun Watson, okay, you are not an NFL starter. You can forget it. You can hang it up. I wouldn't be surprised if they traded him before the season started. I mean, that would be a very Browns thing to do. But who would they trade him to? There's nobody that we know of that needs a quarterback, especially that would take him in a trade. But if they really want to call themselves having some sort of security blanket as far as the backup quarterback and maybe a veteran quarterback that can help them out in the future, help teach a young quarterback, because they're going to draft a quarterback at the end of the season. Let's not kid ourselves. Hopefully they go for Dante Moore and not Arch Manning. I would probably grab somebody like Mac Jones, which I've been talking about for the past 2 years. Carson Beck, who I've been talking about for the past 2 years, he fortunately, depending on how you look at it, got snatched up by the Cardinals. And in his first preseason action, he looked very much the part of why I wanted them to draft Carson Beck in the 3rd round. Oh, goodness. Drew Aller has shown flashes, but Will Howard, who I wish they would have drafted last year, he got hurt in the preseason. Well, during preseason, he was hurt. He got hurt in training camp, and his 2025 season was lost. But watching him play, because I watched that Steelers game, watching him play, he looked very much like a potential NFL starter, just somebody that you would have to bring along after about a good 2-3 years in the league. But he displayed the touch passes. He displayed the heat. He made very effective, efficient throws. So next year, when Aaron Rodgers retires, there's going to be a quarterback battle in Pittsburgh between those two. So I'm not worried about the Steelers needing a quarterback next year. I'm not worried about the Cardinals needing a quarterback next year. Carson Beck looked pretty good. I'm not worried about the Dolphins needing a quarterback next year if Malik Willis doesn't work out, because Quentin Ewers looked very much the part last year as a rookie and also in his preseason games. The Falcons, if they need a quarterback with Penix and Tua down there, they're not going to be in the position to leapfrog the Browns to get a quarterback. The Vikings are going to be serviceable with Kyler Murray. But even if they implode, they're not going to be in the position to leapfrog the Browns for a quarterback. The Bucks, I believe the Bucks and Baker Mayfield, they're going to work it out. They're going to work it out. Baker wants a 5-year deal. The Bucks are playing with that. They'll probably give it to him. The Colts with Daniel Jones, even if they bottom out, I don't think they'll bottom out so bad that they will be able to leapfrog the Browns for a quarterback. But I think if Daniel Jones has another solid season, he's not going anywhere. And the Jets, they actually like Klubnik, who played very well in his preseason debut. They like what they have in him, even though he's a 4th-round pick. They like what they have in him. So if you're looking at Jets, Cardinals, and possibly the Dolphins, who will probably be competing with for the number 1 pick. But I doubt very highly that they'll be looking at quarterbacks. They seem to be set with what they have at quarterback as far as going into their future. It's us that's desperately in need of one. So we'll have our pick. Please don't let it be Arch Manning. I mean, good Lord, you talk about Nepo babies. But at least those guys are good. At least the Manning kids have 2 Super Bowl rings. Well, 3. They have at least 3 Super Bowl rings, with Eli having 2. But at any rate, let's get on to what we're here for. We have no depth. This is why you have ownership saying that we won't be competitive until 2029, 2028 at the earliest, but 2029 overall. Because by then, come next year, you'll draft a rookie quarterback. It's going to take maybe about 2 years for that quarterback. Hopefully, you draft a franchise quarterback. Todd Monken will probably still be around. I'm really liking where he is as far as this coaching direction. I cannot lie about that. I thought that he would be a 2 years and done. But so far, the early signs say that he's going to be here for a good 5 years. But we'll see. The season hasn't started. A lot can change. He says the right things. He's got these guys practicing the right way. So you let him get his quarterback, give him 3 years to develop him. If the quarterback develops, that extends him for another 2 years. Uh, but outside of that, our biggest problem is depth. Our biggest problem is depth. And to sit there and to watch the Ultimate Cleveland Sports show, I don't watch the full shows, but I'll watch the clips now. And to have uh, Adam the Bull sit up there and say that he's not concerned about the backup corners for this team, like, are you out of your mind? Yes, we're watching backup offensive linemen. We're watching backup wide receivers. We're watching backup defensive players, especially the secondary in a pass-happy league. In our secondary, outside of our first four, you've got your two starters. We're talking corner now, not safety, but corner. Outside of your two starters and your nickel, you've got to worry about your dime defense. Your dime defense. You have to worry about those cornerbacks. I'm not worried about safety. We're good at safety. We're good at safety. We have depth at safety, but we don't have depth at corner. And as we know, Denzel Ward does not play full seasons anymore. He hasn't played a full season in a minute. So you need depth behind those guys. And as you saw in the second half, they just picked us apart. The Bears picked us apart. So we had no depth. We had no depth. Number 43, cooked. He was getting cooked out there. So yeah, you need depth. I'm not necessarily worried about depth at linebacker. Number 59, I believe his number is, at linebacker. I'm not worried about that guy. Did you see him body slam at wide receiver like he was somebody's child? The guy caught the ball over the middle. I'm keep in mind it's early, so I'm going with revisionist history. But the receiver caught the ball over the middle. The linebacker grabbed him and body slammed him like he was somebody's child. He could have had an interception on one pass. It bounced off of the receiver's hands and into his chest, but he was so intent on making the hit, he wasn't paying attention to the ball, but he knocked the gobbledygook out of that guy. And he was in on some run plays. I may have gotten his number wrong, but that guy can play. He can play. I know it sounds like I don't know what I'm talking about, but I'm going by what I saw. That guy can play. So I'm not worried at linebacker. We got some depth there. We got some depth there behind Williams and Schlesinger. We have some depth. The defensive line, in training camp, it worried me because Mike Hall cannot stay healthy. For some reason, he just cannot stay healthy. So you might have to shore that up, because clearly you're lacking depth there. Because if guys aren't available, then why are you here? You have to be available. Wide receiver is just behind. Okay. Here's what I said with that. Jerry Jeudy, of course, for him, something that he put out last year and throughout his career, outside of when he first came to us 2 years ago, his production has just been terrible. Now, people are saying that he works out better in the slot because he's not a focused guy. He's not the focal point of your offense. He's not wide receiver A. He's not wide receiver B. At wide receiver C, people feel that he'll make the most of his opportunity. But the way I'm looking at it, the Cardinals are having problems with Marvin Harrison Jr. I don't know if you guys are actually aware of that, but he's pretty much playing like Jerry Jeudy has been over the stretch of his career, where fantastic route runner can beat you deep, but he drops the passes that you expect him to catch. In all honesty, if I was the Browns, I would look to trade Jerry Jeudy and a fourth round pick and possibly Sanders, but I would definitely trade Jerry Jeudy and a fourth round pick for Marvin Harrison Jr. because he's got a contract that's due that's coming up in about 2 years. He's still on the rookie NFL salary deal. He's less expensive right now than Jerry Jeudy is. Seeing how Jerry Jeudy is going to be in the slot, he's going to be wide receiver 3 because he's not beating out Concepcion and Boston. It's like our version of John Taylor. It looks like we have Malik Neighbors, John Taylor type of wide receiver set. So Jerry Jeudy, he's going to be in the slot. I would say go ahead and trade him with Harrison if you can, and then you put him in the slot. Isaiah Bond is not a wide receiver. He's not a starter. He's a good slot fourth wide receiver guy. It looks like after going through training camp, he's got over his issue of jumping to make the catch. He had if you watch his tape, he had a bad habit of leaving his feet in order to make the catch, as if the NFL football was coming in too hard and it was too big for him. He was a teenager out there. But now watching him as he's out there, he's now making the catch with his hands and not leaving his feet. He now looks like what people expected him to be before he fell out of the draft due to allegations, or allegations, as the super mayor used to say. But behind him, Cedric Tillman and the rest of those guys, just too small, too slow. Let's just say that. Too small, too slow. But hopefully you won't have to depend on those guys. The offensive line is still trying to come together. They're still shaky. You might have depth at possibly 1 or 2 positions. But outside of that, in the way that we rotate through offensive linemen, hopefully these guys can hold up for a game or 2 or 3. But it's not fully there yet. A lot of new faces, a lot of new cadence, everybody trying to figure out how to feed off of each other. They probably won't gel to maybe like week 4 at the earliest. But I mean, they weren't too bad. When they were out there with Watson, they gave him some breathing room. That was cool. He had time to throw. Especially if how it looks like how the Browns are going to run their offense. 1, 2, 3 throw, 1, 2, 3 throw. Bring the defense in tight. And then, of course, as you with Sampson, and of course Sampson, he gets out there. That is his bread and butter, those screens, those running back screens. You get him out in space against some defensive backs, and it's a foot race. But as far as running him between the tackles and the guards, that's not going to work for him. He's too light in the tail feathers for all of that. That's why you definitely need a 1A running back. Like when we had Chubb and Hunt, you need a Hunt for Judkins. You need somebody to spell Judkins for when he comes out of the game, or unfortunately he gets hurt like he did last year. And as you saw, our running game just went to the toilet. You need another guy. Dozer. You need a bulldozer. He doesn't have to be dynamic, but somebody that's hard to bring down, that can at least get you 3 yards in a cloud of dust, maybe 5 on a good day. You need that. You don't need a guy that gets stacked up at the line, maybe lose you 2 or gain you 1 on 1st and 10. That's not going to work. You need to turn the 1st and 10 into a 2nd and 7, 2nd and 6 at the most. You need that. You need a backup. But that's where I sit with that. But in years past, prior to 2025, it would just be a toss up. It would be a guessing game. But now that we have Adam All-Kiyal, now that he's been promoted as far as in the Browns front office, I'm not worried about our talent acquisition. Sure, in the back end of the draft, you're going to get what you're going to get. All right. I mean, these aren't frontline players, but as far as like the first 3-4 rounds, the past two years, I'm not really worried about it. I know Dylan Gabriel was a swing and a miss, but I mean, they can't all be winners. But he was just supposed to be a career backup anyway. But this development is just been stunted, so I'm not even worried about him. He's not even in the picture. If anything, he probably won't survive cut day, unfortunately for him. But Adam All-Kiyal, here's his profile. As of 2026, Adam is the Cleveland Browns Director of Player Personnel. The Browns official front office directory lists him under Player Personnel, reporting within the personnel structure headed by Assistant GM and VP of Player Personnel Glenn Cook. So that's his immediate boss. So what he does, Adam is essentially one of the key people helping determine which players the Browns acquire and keep. His responsibilities include helping run the day-to-day college and pro personnel operations, evaluating players, working with Glenn Cook on personnel decisions, contributing to draft evaluation, contributing to free agent and roster decisions, and helping formulate broader strategic roster decisions. He was promoted to Director of Player Personnel in 2025 after previously serving as Cleveland's Director of Pro Scouting. He's been with the Browns since 2015 when he started as an intern. So, in terms of evaluating Kiyal, it's actually interesting person to consider because the performance of the young players and roster bubble players is directly relevant to his department's work. All right. Now, for the past 2 years, he has been responsible for our draft picks. Not Andrew Berry. It's been Adam scouting these players. He is destined to be a future GM because he went to school for business accounting. All right, he knows what he's doing. He knows how to shape the contracts, and he has an eye for talent. And he used to play. He was a wide receiver in college. The guy knows what he's doing. Okay, you talking about getting it out the mud and being down in the trenches. Hopefully, we'll fire Andrew Berry in 2 years and promote this guy. Now, I ran through exactly what we saw on tape, and I wanted to get a full evaluation. So here's what I got. Like, if we're evaluating the 2026 Browns based on the Bears preseason game, I would not panic over the 34-10 score, but I would take several things seriously. This game actually gave us a pretty useful look at Todd Monken's Browns. My overall grade is C+, which I agree with. The important distinction is that Cleveland started well and then completely lost control of the game. The Browns led 10-0 before Chicago scored 34 unanswered. And when we were up 10-0, all the starters were in the preseason game. Watson put up 10 points before the half, and then boom, after it was all Chicago. Let's see what I like. Deshaun Watson. They gave Deshaun Watson a grade of B+, which I can agree with. His one turnover was not his fault. That's just what happens in the trenches. He was in the motion to throw. The guy clipped his hand. It was a fumble. Those things happen. That's just a football play. It wasn't an interception. He didn't fumble the snap. All right? Not like he was running in the open field and the defender poked it out or it bounced off his knee in situations that we've seen before. in the limited action that we've seen Deshaun Watson play in the Browns uniform. It was just a good defensive football play in the trenches. It is what it is. So anyway, B plus. This was probably the biggest positive. Watson went 11 of 15 for 126 yards, and he engineered 2 scoring drives before leaving the game. Considering this was his first game action since 2024, that's a meaningful step. He looked comfortable early, moved the ball efficiently, and showed enough arm talent to keep the QB competition interesting. But I'm not ready to hand him the starting job based on one half of preseason football. Well, if we were to go by the first game of preseason football, I would definitely be like, yeah, I would give him the starting role. And you can see why really it's a competition, quote unquote, although it's really not. I mean, they're giving Sanders every opportunity to win the job, but he's just not good enough to win the job. That's the problem. But if you really evaluated Watson's performance as Unc, that would be Shannon Sharp was saying, he didn't throw the ball past 10 yards. It was a lot of dinking and ducking. And that's fine. That's fine. I can deal with you dinking and dunking because it's showing me that you're being careful with the football. You're not taking risks for the sake of taking risks. Do you understand? The Bears, the little blitzes that they did, he got rid of the football. He made the right reads. You saw 2 bad passes and a drop. But outside of that, he moved the chains. He put up 10 points. Here we go. Casey Concepcion, definitely an A. He's not an A plus. When I saw him back there on punt returns, and I had this discussion with a small discussion with a guy on Twitter about us having a punt returner. We need a punt and kick returner. He was like, well, we have Concepcion doing that. And I'm like, look, let me tell you something. The only thing I want Casey Concepcion doing is handing the ref the ball after making the catch. Or as we see now on end the rounds. I don't want him returning kicks and punts. That's how players get hurt. I don't want him doing that. Please find somebody else. Matter of fact, Jerry Jeudy, get on back there. Or better yet, send Isaiah Bonds back there. But no, I do not want our number one wide receiver returning kicks and punts. Can you imagine Jerry Rice returning kicks and punts? No. At any rate, like they gave him an A. Like this is one of the players I'd be most excited about. Concepcion showed the kind of versatility you want from a young offensive weapon, including a touchdown in the round. He looked explosive and capable of creating something after the catch. This is exactly the sort of player who could become a Monken's offense. He is definitely a major part of Monken's offense, and his stock is up. Denzel Boston, who they gave a B, another rookie wide receiver who showed enough to make me interested. He wasn't as spectacular as Concepcion, but there were signs that Cleveland may have found some legitimate young receiving talent. Of course we did. Thank you, Adam. I appreciate you. Michael Coates Jr., who's a B plus. Remember I was talking about depth at corner? Yeah, he's the fourth guy. He's the guy in the dime. I like him. His interception and pass defense works good out. Unfortunately, he left with an ankle injury, so the next question is whether he can get back quickly enough to continue his roster push. Yeah, I like that guy. I like that guy. But behind him, you have no depth. Remember, he jumped in front of the Bears receiver. He came out of nowhere and snagged that interception. Would look like to be a perfect little catch on a dump pass. Yeah, that guy showed some quickness and athletic. Baited the quarterback. He baited the quarterback. He was at least 2 yards behind the wide receiver when the quarterback threw the ball. Next thing you know, boom, It was a Madden play interception where you jump in front, cradled it, hit the ground. Secure the catch. Secure the catch first. Get the possession. Then make the play afterwards. Extend the play if you can. I like that. That guy has some good instincts. So they're saying the biggest question is at quarterback. And in all honesty, as far as when it comes to starters, that really is our biggest weakness right there, because we know Watson will probably not play the whole season based on history. So that's our biggest question mark. So Watson, of course, 11 to 15, which is not bad. He only had, 4 incompletions, 126 yards, 2 scoring drives, looked comfortable early. Sanders, they're saying about Sanders is he had some good moments, but he also had a costly interception. The offense became increasingly inconsistent. And I get that. You're going to get that with the 2s and 3s, but we'll see next week. Let's see. The Browns intentionally split the preseason reps, with Watson playing the first half and Sanders taking the second. Monken has explicitly said the competition remains open. But see, my current QB ranking after Chicago, Watson has the slight edge. Sanders is still very much active, and Dylan Gabriel. Somebody on Nightcap, the third guy that they added, they said Dylan Gabriel need to go ahead and get his CDLs. Gabriel needs to go and get his CDLs and, chalk it up, call it a day. He's done. Let's see. They say, but they want to see Sanders with the first team offense against Buffalo before making a serious judgment. I do too, because Buffalo is a playoff team. Chicago is a playoff team. And the thing about playoff teams, like the Rams and the 49ers, etc., is that these teams have depth. They have guys on their team that are second stringers that can start for other teams. And that's really how you really evaluate your talent, the talent that you have on your team. Can this person start in Cincinnati? Can this person Buffalo? Can this person start in Detroit? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. When it comes to your depth, your starters as well, but also with your depth. The Rams have guys on their defensive line that could start for other teams. The Rams have guys in their secondary that can start for other teams. Same with the Lions. Look at their running back position. Their second running back is now a starter. Okay? He's now a starter. When you have guys that are in your depth chart that can be signed away and start for other teams, you have depth. The Browns do not have that in a lot of categories. So as it says here, the offensive line worries me. This is probably my biggest concern from the game. The Browns struggle to consistently create movement in the running game. While Chicago's defense generated pressure, it made Cleveland work for virtually everything after the opening stretch. Cleveland finished with 314 total yards and only 13 first downs, compared with Chicago's 430 yards and 22 first downs. That's not simply preseason doesn't matter, bull. You don't want your second and third team offensive linemen getting dominated to the point where your offense can't sustain drives. The offensive line grade is a C-. Biggest defensive concern. This is where I'd be most worried. The Browns gave up 34 unanswered points after taking a 10-0 lead. The defense also struggled with explosive plays and failed to consistently generate pressure. And this is particularly important because Cleveland's defense has undergone a major psychological personnel transition. Without Myles Garrett, the Browns need to prove they can generate pressure through scheme and rotation rather than relying on one elite pass rusher. Against Chicago, I didn't see enough of that, and they gave the defense a C- as well. Not because I expect the defense to be terrible, but because this game exposed the exact area that needs the most work. I mean, look at it. We're talking about signing Zadarius Smith. Excuse me. You're talking about signing Zadarius Smith to come back. You were actually looking at who's that guy that bust from Texas that played here and then quit on the team and then went back to Texas, and now I think I can't even think of his name. He was just that terrible and just that insignificant. I can't even think of the kid's name. But he played here too. I'm sorry, I'm older than him by at least 2 years, so kid. But yeah, you need that depth at defensive line. You don't really have a pass rusher. I know we have Jared Verse, and he's a up and coming solid player, but I mean, 8 sacks, 9 sacks, 2 years. Yeah, that's a huge drop off from Myles Garrett, where you definitely know you're going to get at least 14 sacks. You know, just on Myles Garrett on an off year, you're going to get 14 sacks. You're going to get a 3-sack game. Okay, you know that a 5-sack game, a 4-sack game, you know you're going to get that out of him. Especially against a team you know you should dominate. I don't think we're going to get that as far as with our defensive line. So next year, you're probably looking at, as far as with your picks, your first couple of picks, you're looking at cornerback, because I think they're going to trade Denzel Ward probably at the end of the year, near the end of the year, probably for the trade deadline. It looks like how the season is going. Probably going to get something for him, if not next year. I don't expect Ward to be on this roster come 2027. Jerry Jeudy, you're going to look at a trade for him, but we're talking about starters now. So you're looking at quarterback, cornerback, and then work on your defense, your defensive end. You're going to look for another defensive end because Alex Wright is not, I mean, he's solid, but he's not going to start on any other team. You're going to need a starter, so you're going to need to find a replacement for him. You're going to stick with Jared Verse, but you're going to need a pass rusher. Jadeveon Clowney, that's what I was thinking about. They were trying to re-sign Jadeveon Clowney. He went back to Texas. And, of course, you know, they're talking about Zadarius Smith. So you're going to need a bona fide pass rusher. So quarterback, cornerback, defensive end, and then you're going to work on your depth. So your first 3 draft picks are going to probably be in that order, because next year you're looking at a very deep draft at quarterback and cornerback. If you trade Denzel Ward, you can probably get maybe, I'm reaching here on saying a 2nd round pick, but either you can get a late 2nd or a high 3rd for Denzel Ward. If not 2 picks, like a 3rd and a 4th. Maybe. I mean, I'm maybe in the hell out of this, but I'm thinking low 2nd, high 3rd for Ward, provided that he stays healthy this year. So you can get a replacement for him. You can add some depth. Deshaun Watson, you'll get some breathing room on your salary cap. They're talking about extending him or signing him to a new contract. So that way, in all honesty, he'll be cuttable and it won't kill your cap. It won't kill your cap, but we'll see. But those will be your three big needs going into next year's draft. Those will be your 3 biggest needs as far as starter. But after that, your picks after that and your free agent acquisitions will definitely be towards your depth chart. But yeah, they definitely need a pass rusher. That's just ridiculous. That's just ridiculous. Todd Monken, I actually like what I saw from Monken. He was aggressive on fourth down and appeared willing to treat the preseason as an evaluation laboratory rather than simply trying to win the game. That's important. And do understand, we used to try to lightweight kill Stefanski for going for it on fourth down, but Monken's he's a gambler too. If you want to win the game, you got to take chances. He's trying to figure out quarterback, wide receiver rotations, offensive line combinations, defensive personnel, fourth down philosophy, and situational football. The fact that Cleveland collapsed after halftime doesn't automatically mean Monken coached badly. However, the inability to stop the collapse is something he'll have to address, but that'll have to come with depth and coaching schemes. So they graded as far as the performances of some of the key positions and areas. Watson got a B plus, Shador got a C plus, Concepcion got an A, Boston got an A. Offensive line they actually dipped. They got a C minus. Running game is a C, but that's because outside of Judkins there's nothing. Pass rush is a C minus, secondary a C, special teams a B minus, Todd Monken a B, and overall roster is a C plus. So the biggest takeaway is that the Browns aren't as bad as 34-10 suggests, but they're also not as close to being good as the first quarter suggested. The first half showed me that Watson can still operate in the NFL offense. Concepcion could be a legitimate weapon, and Monken has some interesting offensive ideas. The second half showed me that Cleveland's depth, offensive line, and defense still have significant questions, and that's exactly why Buffalo becomes much more important. Sanders gets the first half against the Bills, while Watson gets the second. That should give us a much cleaner comparison of the two quarterbacks, and most importantly, tell us whether Sanders can actually run Monken's offense with the starters. If I would say that if I was to really evaluate the quarterbacks based on what I've seen in their overall careers, Watson is still a one read quarterback. He's still a one read quarterback after all these years. If the first read's not there, he's looking to run while looking at his second read. Okay, he's still at that position. Same thing with Sanders, except Watson's processing speed is a whole lot faster because he's been doing it the longest. But Sanders, his processing speed is still slow. It's slow like his footwork. He's not fast. And this is why they were talking about as far as situations when it comes to him getting in and out of the huddle. You've got a lot of false starts, and we saw that in the preseason game where the offense had some false starts. Pre-snap penalties. You still had those. You still had the pre-snap penalties, so you're still working on that. But once that ball is snapped, you have to be able to make that read and throw. You've got 3 seconds. You've got 3 seconds to verify that what you're seeing at the line of scrimmage before the snap is actually what you're seeing. And if it's not what you're seeing, by the time you plant your back foot, if it's not there, you should be on your second, and if that's not there, your third read. By the time you 1, 2, 3 plant the throw, if read 1's not there and read 2's not there, you should be on read 4. If not, possibly read 5. This is why they give you the hot route, or the dump ball out in the flat. If it's not there, dump it to the running back. If it's not there, dump it to the tight end. The great quarterbacks, they were able to do that. The Montanas, the Marinos, we're talking about pocket quarterbacks too. Montanas, Marinos, the Drew Breeses, the Tom Brady's. All right, they all of that 1, 2, 3 balls gone. First, second, third, fourth, fifth option. Why do you think we know Tom Rathman's name? Fifth option. If they're there, here. Here you go. You can do all of the coaching in the world, but if the player, if their football IQ is just not at that level where they can make that read by the time they're done it with their third 3-step drop and planted their back foot, you can forget it. You'll be what Jerry Glanville says the NFL stands for not for long. I'll be selling groceries. Yeah, if you can't get it done, they'll get rid of you. They'll get rid of you. NFL is not. Look, a lot of these teams do not have time to develop quarterbacks. They don't have the time for that. I mean, look what's going on in Minnesota. But then again, they had a horrible GM. How the hell did you let Sam Darnold? How the hell did you let Sam Darnold walk out of the building? Of course, Crying Ryan. No, it wasn't Crying. Well, no, it wasn't Crying Ryan. It was Bomani Jones, that idiot, talking about he would take Kyler Murray over Sam Darnold. Keep in mind, he said that this month. Who I wish we would have drafted. It was either him or Baker Mayfield. We went Mayfield, and then we let Darnold we didn't have the money to sign Darnold, but it was a Watson contract. But man, whew, it just goes to show that players, it's like I said, you don't give. A lot of these teams, like the Jets, do not give their quarterbacks time to develop. If you see that you've got a young quarterback like Fernando Mendoza, you don't start him week 1. You let him sit behind a Kirk Cousins. And unless Kirk Cousins gets hurt or completely falls off the rails, you don't start your number 1 quarterback. Remember, they did that with Baker Mayfield. They let him sit for a couple of games before Tyrod Taylor got hurt, and then he came in and he won the Jets game. And then, of course, you had Hugh Jackson and what was our offensive coordinator's name? He came from Kansas City. He was sabotaging Hugh Jackson because he wanted Jackson to get fired, and then he step in as interim head coach and then start be the coach of the Browns. But instead, what the Browns did, they fired him and Hugh Jackson because they knew what the hell was going on in that building. He was sabotaging Hugh Jackson at the cost of Baker Mayfield. But do understand, Baker Mayfield played his way out of Cleveland. He let his ego get the best of him. Same thing that he's doing out in Tampa Bay, but that's a different story. That's Tampa Bay's front office screwing him over, just like the Browns front office screwed Baker over. But Baker did himself no favors his last year here. He should have went on IR with that injured shoulder. Like, dude, chill out. Don't sit down. You're already tagged. If he would have, I swear to God, if he would have went ahead and went on IR with that shoulder injury in week 2 or week 3, once he saw, look, I can't get this done. In all honesty, the team should have sat him down. This is why I say Baker and the front office, they both failed. He failed himself, as did the front office. The front office should have been the adult in the room and said, no, we're not sending you out there. We already picked up your 5th-year option. We'll shut it down. We'll find another quarterback. Okay, we'll find another quarterback to come in and fill in. we'll consider this as the Fred Water year, and then next year, boom, you come out, you be the starter, etc. But because he didn't want to do that, and the Browns didn't want to protect him, well, now he's in Tampa Bay. Yeah, teams do not develop their quarterbacks the way that they should. They do not protect their franchise quarterbacks, their young quarterbacks, like they should. We don't do it like the Packers have done it over the years. We don't do it like San Francisco has done over the years. That's why good teams stay good teams. Harbaugh with the Ravens. He didn't start Lamar Jackson fresh out the gate. No matter how bad Joe Flacco was playing, he didn't start Lamar Jackson out of the gate. It wasn't until Flacco got hurt that Lamar Jackson came into the game, and you saw what he did early on with Lamar Jackson as far as a quarterback. He pretty much made him a read option quarterback for a while until he learned to throw in the NFL. Once he learned to throw in the NFL, oh, you're talking about MVP candidate. But unfortunately, because he's doing a lot of passing, he's getting hurt. He's getting quad injuries and ankle injuries and whatnot. But that's life in the NFL, especially as a mobile or athletic quarterback. you're gonna get those things. But overall, yeah, this is a wasted year. It's a wash year until we probably get in that dome, and because by then you'll be out from up under Watson's contract, and you'll be drafting in the top 5 for the next year or two, right? Until you build up some depth. You build up some depth and build up experience at key positions to where then you can be competitive, because competitive teams do not rely on their top 22. They just don't. All right. That's where I sit with it. I will holler at y'all later. Peace.
I mean, we just want volunteers, not hostages.